So today we have an incredible guest on the show with us today, an amazing man of God who is versed and talented in many aspects of the worship ministry. But he is most known for music director for Dwelling Place Anaheim and Jeremy Riddle's tour. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podcast, Cristiano.
That's very generous of you. Yeah. I should record that and just send to all my friends.
That's
and be
right.
like, hey, you know?
Yeah. I'll get it to you, dog. A little 30-second clip.
Send it to my mommy. Mom, that's what I'm doing in America.
Yeah. Where are you from originally?
I am born and raised in Brazil. So left Brazil when I was 24.
Wow.
And to Reading. Straight to Reading. And so
that's where I first seen you was
that's
Reading.
That's where we connected.
Yeah.
Worship community at Bethel.
Worship community, yeah.
Then stayed in Reading for about 7 years, and that's where I met Taylor, my wife.
Okay. Reading?
In Reading, yeah.
Wow.
First day of ministry school, so 2013. That's when we were at. Well, if she tells the story, it's a little funnier because she kind of gets the right, version. But we were at the worship team auditions for the school.
Okay. Which year?
That was 2013-14.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if probably you were there judging
I was going to say, Ryan used to have me show up to those, so I was like, which year?
So we're just for the worship teams for the school, and then I saw this girl, and she was going to try out. She had a bass, and I play bass. And
I was like, wow.
And I'm like, all right, a girl that plays bass. So, but Taylor's version of the story is like I had second intentions of going and asking her about her bass, but I was like, hey, what kind of bass do you have?
Yeah.
And she interpreted it me, hitting on her. And, and the rest is story. But so 6 years, almost 7 years at Bethel. And then the Lord directed us to move down to Orange County. Yeah. And it happened that, not happened, but big part of it was also Jeremy. I was working for Jeremy at that time too. Yeah. And he just helped for us to move down. And there was a position at the church for me to be helping with the worship department as like a worship department manager sort of thing. And in that process of, we moved September 2019. I came in, I had a friend already working for the church, Paul Aaron. Yeah. There's not really somebody that was helping drive the overall production for the church. Yeah. So I ended up kind of falling into that. Okay. Into that seat of helping with the technical production of the church too. So from South Brazil to Orange County, like SoCal.
That's so crazy.
But it's, the Lord's been grateful. Not grateful, but very generous to us in our journey. But it's great.
That's awesome. Yeah. Bro, I didn't know your wife played bass.
Yeah, and she's Australian, so she was there also as an international student. Right. But he worked out. 7 years married now in 2 weeks.
That's nuts.
So it's...
Does she still play?
Bass? Yeah. She's a full music producer now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So she produces a bunch of music. She'll record her own bass. She won't let me play on her on her tracks. Nothing personal, but her main thing's keys for sure. Yeah, that's where she really thrives. And beautiful voice. But bass. Not really anymore. We still have her. The bass I asked her about is still at our house. Which is a Music Man, Stingray. Yeah. Okay, so It's a nice bass. Yeah.
That's so cool, man. Wow. So you guys met at Bethel. You're now in Orange County, and you're doing now. I played with you there. You've done some music directing, right? Yeah. So you also direct the band. Do you do that on tour as well?
We do, yeah. So I do that. For me, it's like, I wouldn't say it's not like my main job at the church, but I I started doing that in school. Basically, that's where I started MDing, was at BSSM.
Yeah.
They just needed somebody to really help communicate.
Right.
Because it's like, imagine you're putting 6, 7, sometimes 8 people,
Yeah.
especially at ministry school, with 8 different backgrounds.
That's right, yeah.
In every area, like culturally, maybe 8 nations. It was funny because my team, we'll call the international team, because it's like me on bass, Brazilian, Taylor on keys, Australian. Our drummer was from England.
Yeah.
Our worship leader was Australian. I just it's like have all these people, so having somebody on stage that could help translate. And I didn't really have a lot of experience, so just kept doing that, and then moved on to playing for Fridays at Bethel, which is like the actual service, and just doing it and learning, and then as I just gaining more experience, I've MD'd a few times on Sundays. It wasn't honestly, I mean, I could count in one hand the times, but because you had more established guys that were part of the Bethel,
Right, yeah.
you know, Michael Pope or David Hislop.
Mike Pope.
Yeah.
That was the homie, man.
Yeah, sometimes even the drummers would MD, like Joe or David Whitworth.
David Whitworth,
Yeah.
yep.
So legends. And then moved down here is just like a great need for somebody to also be helping, you know, more than, well, I was already going on trips with Jeremy.
Yeah, I was gonna say you were touring already.
Yeah, so I was already touring with Jeremy and doing that on the road, but coming to church, he really needed somebody to just kind of help translate a little bit of who he was, especially him being the main worship leader. So yeah, been doing that on the road for Jeremy for 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah, 'cause I think you because when we reached out to have Jeremy come to our camp, I was at a church in Santa Monica. I think you were managing too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were road manager, right?
Yeah, so I was road managing. It's like, you know, I don't call myself Jeremy's manager just because I feel like I am more I'm his facilitator.
Yeah, right.
It's more, hey, it's what he's feeling in his heart for, you know, so it'll be like the role of a manager at some extension, but I don't take any ownership or authority over his decisions. It's more like, hey, was that the direction? I would just use my skills to, you know, so for albums or tours, or we're not really going on tours anymore, but for any trips or we're starting a nonprofit. So I'm kind of, you know, helping set up that legally. And so it's a jack of all trades.
Yeah, I was going to say, bro, you wear so many hats.
A lot of hats.
I got to revise my intro, bro.
No, you're fine.
Your intro is like under par, bro, compared to what you actually...
It's okay. No, it's like, no, you're totally fine. A person that would MD for Jeremy too was Cassie Campbell. I don't know.
Yeah, she played bass for Misty.
Yes.
And Stephanie Gretzinger.
Yes, she's you know, a sister to me. My Taylor, it's like part of the family basically, but she's an amazing MD too. So she was doing it when she was more traveling with us. So then I'll manage the trips. She would do MD for Jeremy.
Wow.
But then when I was, you know, playing, then I'll just MD as well. But now she's actually playing with
is it David?
Brooke Ligerwood.
Oh, she's with Brooke.
Yeah.
Somebody told me she was in Santa Maria.
She is. So she's a staff at a House of Prayer in Santa Maria.
Yeah.
And then but then she gets time to be committed. So now she's very well committed to Brooke. So
I mean, Brooke, you know what I'm saying?
That's great, and they gel really well, and that's great. So
Cassie's amazing, man. That girl can play some dang bass.
Yeah.
I remember watching her on some of the live streams at IHOP.
Oh man,
yeah, that was back in the Dizzy.
Those are life-giving sets. I'll tell that much. Anybody, it's like, you want to know anything about worship?
Yeah.
MDing, all these things. I'm like, hey, get some of these sets in and just munch on them. But yeah, it's been a fun journey. I like it. I've never seen myself. It's like, because sometimes people create that like, oh, the MD is like I call myself more like a facilitator in between the band and the worship leader. I guess that's kind of the overall word in my life.
Yeah.
In all the areas all the plates I'm spinning.
Right.
Like I call myself more like a facilitator.
Yeah.
But even on stage, it's like I just try to help translate, not in post, because I'm seeing. It's funny because MDs it became the thing now that everybody wants to be, or courses on how to direct your band or this or that. So I'm seeing tons of that out there now.
Yeah.
But it's always kind of infused with that little how to put your own agenda behind for you to tell what the worship leader needs to do, or how to tell the band what to do.
Yeah.
And I've always seen that as more like, well, I prefer more being the person that's kind of helping the communication in between the two ends. And it's like, hey, if you want to go that direction, I'll make sure the entire band goes. Yeah. Now, sometimes if it's a wrong direction during rehearsal, we're able to kind of, gently correct. But I'm always like, you're the leader, you're feeling good. I got the band and we're together on this.
So this is something I want to know is there's so many different styles of music directing, of MDing. And I've been a part of some sets where it seems like the MD is actually telling the leaders where to go, things like that. But then I've also been a part of where the MD is kind of a reflection of the leader and is almost suggesting we could go here, but maybe the leader also giving space for the leader to be the leader. Yeah. Because they might say, oh, no, because how do you manage a spirit-led moment where it's just like Holy Spirit takes over and it's like, no, we need to stay on that chorus a little longer. Yeah. How do you walk that line of like, here's the arrangement that we rehearsed, but then, how do we leave room for the Holy Spirit and the leader to feel confident to lead? Yeah.
I think it depends really on the leader, right? Okay. So, our church is a great example because like we have people like a Catherine Scott or like a Jeremy Riddle that are really well established on their identity as a worship leader. So if, and it's, I have so much, 5 years, I'll call it so much history with Jeremy. Yeah. That it's like, if you have an MD that, that's going to tell Jeremy what he needs to be doing, that's just not going to work. Yeah. Right? Because correct, you're talking about somebody that's been doing that for 20 years. Yeah. Already knows. Yeah. So for people that are really well established, you kind of morph into that place of, okay, how can I get to know the leader really well? Okay. So then whatever scenario, whoever the musicians are, me as an MD, I can facilitate this being, this worship leader, and help translate whatever he's trying to say or whatever he wants to go to these guys. So like my job with Jeremy is usually I'm very like foot off the gas in a sense. I'm like reminding the band, I don't know, sometimes a song or, hey, we're going to go into that. Or sometimes Jeremy would start a song just out of the blue. And now we have a team that travels with Jeremy that has a lot of history. It was like me, my wife, Matt Mainhard, that's been with Jeremy for a long time.
When he was learning from Luke back about.
Yeah, so it's kind of like it's very easy. Yeah. It feels very natural, I'd say, not easy to follow Jeremy just because we spent so much time in the on the saddle together.
You don't even have to like look at him necessarily to know where, to switch to this.
But then I feel for the people that are playing with Jeremy, let's say for the first time.
on a Sunday morning.
Yeah. You're like, okay, so then for me, it's less about the interaction MD to worship leader, but MD to the rest of the band of like, okay, we're doing this song now. Maybe this is where we're going, and kind of try to communicate. So that's kind of a scenario where it's like you get to know the leaders really well. And I actually learned that at Bethel, where it's like, just know them, just learn their body moves, or
like when they kick their foot up,
the
like,
signs, like if your leader is playing with an acoustic guitar, he won't have the physical ability to tell you, but he's like stomping his foot, or
which means build, or
he's gonna lift his acoustic guitar.
That's Brian right there.
Or to let's go, or bring it down.
Right. Yeah.
So you kind of really learn, and you ask questions like, hey, so this part, did you mean this? And you're just kind of computing all of that.
Right.
Now, when you're MDing for somebody that is not as seasoned, then it's almost like you have to have a bit of a shepherd's heart, where you're kind of shepherding the worship leader on, like, not necessarily you're asking that way, but it's almost like creating questions around the arrangement, just so then it's like, are you sure that's what you want to do?
Yeah. Because
sometimes an experienced worship leader will come on stage and they have that song that they really like, but it's not necessarily the arrangement. They want to repeat a chorus where it doesn't really feel good, or they want to change. Sometimes, I've had multiple times where somebody comes on stage, they want to change the chord progression, the way how it sounds. And then you have to, it's like a dance, where it's like, hey, and then you just kind of learn a little bit of like, hey, does that feel good? Like, did you feel good? Should we run it one more time? Yeah. So you just kind of help shepherd them, not from us, hey, this is terrible. We should do the way the recording was. Yeah. But it's more because that rule, because, we play, like we have somebody so unique like Jeremy on the team. He barely follows the arrangement. So for me, the rule that like in order to sound good, we follow the arrangement. For me, that doesn't exist. But it's more like, hey, what is the version that you want to make, that you feel comfortable with, and all of that. And it, I learned kind of in the hard way, because I remember there was like a funny story. I was playing at Bethel once, and I was MDing a Sunday night, and it was, I don't want to say it was probably Leland's first time playing at Bethel, or maybe one of the first times. And I forgot the song we're playing now, dang it. But we're rehearsing, and I remember listening to the recording. I know how the song goes, like I'm very familiar. And he repeats something during rehearsal, and I just on the microphone, I'm like, hey, I think we should go this way. But, my heart's basically, I'm just like, hey, I think we should go this way.
Suggesting.
But then I remember, I remember Chris Grilly. He was front of house, and, such a great guy. Yeah. But he just grabs the microphone, and he's like, you do not tell the worship leader what to do. And I'm like, actually, you're right. Right. And it really actually helped me adjust a little. Like, I mean, I agree, don't tell them what to do, but if you have a suggestion, how to communicate. So it's ultimately became this thing of like, how do I communicate well, and especially for the people that are not really with a lot of experience, you really want to make sure that they're on the saddle, getting the reps in, but also well shepherded and well instructed and learning how to ask the question. So then next time they come around, your MDing level is even lower, because they already know kind of like, oh yeah, actually that didn't feel good. Let's do this. Let's just go that way. Yeah. I hope that makes sense. But
no, that's amazing. So I kind of look at MDing as like, especially the way you're talking about it, it's almost like learning to be a great communicator, and learning to be a great facilitator and supporter,
Absolutely.
Because you're you're not really suggesting certain things. You're really asking, how can I serve the vision that you hear or have in your head?
Yeah.
And bring that to life.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like a music producer in a sense.
Pretty much, because you're building a relationship with the people they're singing.
Yeah.
You know their hearts. You know what they're contending for. You know the direction where they want to go during that service. But I also come sometimes with my own desires, like I'm like, man, I'm feeling joy today, or I'm feeling this or that. And then, so you kind of have to learn how to, give priority to what the worship leader is doing. But at the same time, I have countless times where we're in the middle of the set and basically the worship leader is given the band permission to really impart what they are feeling.
Yeah.
And then that's another level, that's beyond you just, knowing the arrangements and knowing what the chord progression or what to do, but it's more, now it's my pastoral heart. It's like my spiritual life, my spiritual baggage comes into play of like, and I have 50-50 some times where I'm MDing, I'm disengaged, and the worship leader gives permission to like, okay, it's almost like they're turning around. It's like, what do we do?
Yeah,
sort
right,
of thing.
yeah.
And I'm like, and then kind of my personal agenda sort of thing comes through, and then I've made decisions off of that. But multiple times I've had times where I am engaged, I am paying attention, and and then things go amazing because it's like we're playing ball, and then the worship leader had the ball, and now he threw the ball to the band, and I'm able to really figure out, okay, what's happening. We had a really amazing moment, and this is literally not even about credits to me, but credit to the actual, what I'm trying to say is we're leading worship at Dwelling Place Anaheim, and Paul Aaron was leading, and
love when he leads.
Yeah, oh man,
he's incredible.
He's a phenomenal worship leader. So he's leading, and then he ends the song. Man, I'm trying to remember the song now. So he ends the song, and he's ready to move on. But so he's kind of turning around like, okay, we're on to the next song. But I'm emptying that set. So I have my ears out, and I can see the church still simmering around the moment.
Yeah.
And then, so I just go to the mic. I'm like, hey guys, let's just hold off a little. Like, just hold on. I think there's something here.
Yeah.
Not exactly these words, but like, hey, let's just, and then I just said, hold on the 4, because we landed on the, the 4th chord.
Yeah.
So we're just landing there. And then we just waited for like a minute or two, and Paul ended up catching that moment, and he just went after. And basically that turned into like, I don't know, maybe a 30-minute extra moment.
No way.
That we actually we held the 4 for about 30 minutes.
Dang.
And then the pastors came and prayed, and it was just a beautiful moment. But that would have never happened if the MD wasn't engaged.
Yeah, tune into the Holy Spirit, what the Holy Spirit was doing in the room.
With his ears, I usually halfway through, especially when we go into lower, like quieter songs, I'll take one of my ears off because I really want to hear how the church is responding.
Yeah.
I think that's, I hate just being locked in to my ears and not really having a grasp on what's going on out there. And it was just that thing of like, well, man, if we move on to the next song, that's really gonna, it's almost like you reset the congregation to whatever the next thematic or what they're thinking. But I'm like, hey, let's just hold a little. And sometimes I'll make that call, and nothing will happen for like 2 minutes. And then we're like, great, we just waited. Let's go to the next song. We're good to go.
Yeah.
But at least like you're doing your due diligence of like.
Yeah.
But for actually twice now, I'm like, hey, maybe we should just wait a little. And it was funny enough because it was with Paul both times.
Yeah.
Where that turned into like an amazing moment of like just glory of God just coming in the room. But no credits to me, but credit to the band and the team being engaged and being like, okay, what do you want to do? Man, I feel like we're supposed to be here. All right, let's just give it a shot.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of a little bit of that. Yeah.
That's so cool. Wow. You guys just went to Brazil. What was that?
We did. Well, it was my second time now, but me and my wife, we led a team just for a missions trip to Brazil. So, second time ever going back to my nation without an instrument. Just the Bible and all right, see what the Lord does. But it was, oh man, we'll need another podcast for me. It's just the stories. You know, we saw the blind seeing. We had this lady that was born with her joints not working, and she got prayed for, and she just literally walked out of the wheelchair.
Wow.
So it was just kind of this moment, for me, it was just such a powerful moment of being back to Brazil, pouring into the people, but not from stage, from behind the bass, but actually interacting with church leaders. Man, there's just so many stories. And our first time was October last year. I went by myself with some leaders of our church and a team. Yeah. This time we took two pastors, Mark Marks and James Renwick, pastors from Dwelling Place.
Mark Marks, I love that. Yeah, he's over all the I guess creation of ministries or something like that. What is it called?
Well, I call him a miracle worker.
Okay.
Because he's walked in signs and wonders for I don't know. Well, if you look at him, he's 65, but he looks younger than I do.
Yeah, I know. I was like,
his incredible.
That's insane.
Incredible shape.
Yeah.
But he leads our healing on the streets ministry at the church, which is, oh man, if you ever get the opportunity to see that, it's such a gentle ministry, but crazy miracles come out of that. And that's honestly what made us go to Brazil, is to actually bring that method of ministry to Brazil. And it was crazy.
Wow.
Hundreds of people, accepting Jesus, hundreds of healings. It was out of this world. So we're planning on going back in September again to, do it. But healing on the streets, just really quickly. But you just put chairs in the middle of the street with banners saying healing. It was really Holy Spirit led, soaking music. And the biggest part of that ministry is you knee on the floor to pray. Yeah. For the land. And then every time I'd done it, as soon as the team gets up from the floor after praying, people just start sitting on the chairs to get prayer. Then after that you start kind of, hey, would you like some prayer? Is there anything we can pray for you? Yeah. But then it's it was what happened in Brazil. We got up on the floor with the team that we trained from the Brazilian church, and just people just started coming and sitting, and how you pray for them, you're on, you're kneeling on the floor as you're washing the feet of your community, sort of thing. Wow. Just very gentle, but ultra powerful.
That's incredible. Wow.
Yeah, so crazy.
Yeah, I haven't seen that before. My church started doing that, where people come to the altar and kneel, and then you kneel down beside them or behind them and pray for them. I was like, wow, that's really interesting. Because, at Bethel, you just you have an assembly line of prayer warriors, and, you go up. But yeah, that was interesting to see that kneeling down with them. There's some people came up during the time of prayer and worship and started just crying, and then you just kind of get down there where they're at.
And I think that's the thing for me, is all about the heart posture, right?
Yeah.
It's somebody sits down, and then you're looking up to them, I'm here to basically serve you, right, in whatever and however measure and however I can, and it really reflects back to Jesus just washing his disciples feet, and it's like I'm in greater position, but I'm looking up and in serving you in however I can. It's an unforgettable trip, and hopefully we can do more and more to bring more people down to experience that. And so
that's incredible, man. Like, I want to go to Brazil. I've always wanted to go there. I've known so many people from Brazil and heard stories. I remember years ago there was a move of God in Brazil. What was that worship leader's name? Is it David? Or he was this anointed Brazilian worship leader who, like, when he led, like, miracles would break out. Sometimes he would lead facing a wall, like Don Potter.
David Killen.
Is it David? I don't know, it was David or something, but
I think something.
Yeah. So it was because I think they experienced like even oil dripping down the wall and services. And like, there's all kind of crazy stuff happening over there.
Man, I have his face. It's not David Killen. It's
okay.
Oh man, this is gonna haunt me now.
Yeah. I just remember it was happening when I was at Bethel. The stories were nutty. I was just like,
He used to partner with this guy called Mike Shee.
Mike Shee?
Yeah, they had a ministry called Passionate Bride.
Okay.
And, huge reference. But yes, they would, hyper prophetic movement, prophetic acts, but also how the Lord would express himself through the ministry, oils dripping off the wall.
Yes. Oh my God. People collecting
feathers, gold dust, healing, just incredible things. So that's funny. You know them. It's
it was stuck with me.
Davi Silva.
It was Davi, huh?
Yeah, Davi Silva. Yeah,
bro. I was like, dude, I recognize that is nuts. I never went. Even when I came out with music, I came out with 2 EPs, and for some reason, both EPs just, resonated with the Brazilian culture.
Wow.
Maybe because they had a little bit of funk and stuff in it, and me and Mike Pope did like a little EP together. And
that's cool.
And but it was kind of more on the funkier, Motownish side a little bit. Yeah, and I had so many requests to tour there, but I never have gone. So I'm like, I really want to go to Brazil. Even when, oh my gosh, what is his name? I'm blanking on his name. Healing evangelist, best friends with Bill Johnson, came and spoke at Dwelling Place.
Randy
Clark, there it is. I had an old man moment. When Randy Clark used to go to Brazil and take teams, he would talk about just the power of God, how it moved. I was like, oh my gosh, dude.
It's such a passionate church. People, period. But
it's in the culture, bro.
It's cultural, It's cultural, and then it definitely reflects on how the church behaves, there was a church we went to. Its name is Cornerstone, and man, it's just loud worship. It is insanity. Like, I wish I could play the video. It's like I've recorded. It's like it hurts. It hurts.
Static.
You think you're having, like, I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but when you're in a worship moment and the congregation is so loud that you're almost having like. As mystical as this sounds, like an outer body, it's like I felt like the ceiling was going to just shatter.
Wow!
It was just this like vivid, and then like and you're joining your voice is joining with all these other voices, and I'm like, I don't know, I think I'm out of my body, but I'm not, but it just felt like it was incredible.
Reaching into that third heaven.
No, literally. But it's all of the voices and the hearts. But oh man, it makes me miss Brazil already. Just talking about it. I got back yesterday, 11:30 a.m. and I'm like, oh, should I go back tomorrow?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, it's home for you too, though.
Yeah, like, it is. And I was at my hometown too, which is fascinating.
That's awesome.
Being with my family, and so it's a beautiful place to be. Yeah, you should go.
Yeah, I would love to, man. I think that would be awesome to go next. And yeah, I've always heard so many stories and made friends with so many folks in Brazil. And so at some point, I'll have to join you on one of those healing excursions.
It's like, to not prolong too much on, but it's what I loved about these trips that they didn't really have an agenda. Mm-hmm. It's like we had the churches we wanted to connect with, but we're like, hey, Lord, whatever you want to do. Yeah. And that's just, I don't know. I felt like we thrived into that environment of not really knowing what to we knew what to expect, that the Lord would show up, but it was more like this thing of, I don't know. Like whatever you want us to do, Lord, whether it's serve or preach or pray or this or that, and it worked out amazing.
Wow. Real quick, do you feel like it's important for musicians and worshipers to learn how to serve through ministry in order to really be on the stage, in order to better serve on the stage, like learning to pray for the sick or, the brokenhearted, learning to minister through prayer as a servant through prayer, as well as on the stage through worship?
Yes. I mean, 1,000 layers to that question, but absolutely. Because ultimately for me, I think starting on a practical side, so at Dwelling Place, we don't take anybody that hasn't been in the church for at least 6 months being part of the church. Yeah. Because we want the person that's part of our team to be part of the church. Yeah. And to be involved in the church. Yeah. Because, and that's my own example. Like when I was at Bethel, the worship team was 100% of who I was in regards to the church. Yeah. So imagine if I had left the worship team, I would have been completely lost in that church community because I have nothing built besides, showing up to my worship community engagements. Yeah. So my encouragement to everybody that comes and approaches us to be like, I'd love to be a part of the worship team. Like, hey, get plugged in our church. Yeah. That's engage in a small group. Yeah. Hey, do these trainings, like do the Healing on the Streets training or go help a youth. So then they can actually build, this is all natural. I'm not even touching the spiritual side of things, but naturally you have such a strong foundation in the church that whenever you apply to the worship team, you're actually don't meet the standards that we need for you to be on stage on Sundays. That won't really, what do you call it? Crumble and destroy your heart, because you're so engaged in the church that you being part of the worship team is like 5% of who you are in regards to the community. Now, from a personal perspective, if all you do is being on Sunday on stage and you don't steward any other part of your Christian life, that's honest for me, that's kind of a red flag, Yeah, that's kind of what I was maybe hinting at a little bit, is like, I think there's an importance to learning how to minister without your instrument, but like through prayer, through healing, like serving your community. Yeah. I don't know. When I first started touring, that was actually a requirement, and at first I was like, "Whoa, this is strange." But then she was like, "I need to know: are you not here to just be a rock star?
are you going to stay afterwards and pray? We're not here to just play, collect a check and bye. But you need to stay. You need to pray for the sick, prophesy, like really until everybody's gone,
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I think for me, it's like the days of you just being the musician on stage, it's like they're done. You're just people are just living the aftermath of something that's over, and especially because ultimately it's about your life with Jesus. I promise you, this is going to be a little dramatic, but I'm a firm believer. But at the end of when you're before Jesus, I 100%, I promise you, you can find me in line and tell me that he's not going to ask how your Sunday's Easter service, how that went. Yeah. He will ask you a lot about the people you loved, the people you treated well, the poor you fed, the widows you went and checked on them, how you treated your wife, if you actually engaged in a relationship with him and all of that. So for me, I think a musician going after a wholehearted and wholeness of a life with Christ is like I would say it is priceless. Like you will find I've been on stage a lot of times. I spent a lot of time on stage and it's amazing. Like played the Send, 50, 60,000 people on stage. Like we done it. We done it, a lot of these things. But for me, you actually really wake up in the morning and know that you have a relationship with the Lord, that the people around you that are in touch with you, they're well cared and well taken care of, and all these things. And you prayer of life of prayer, and healing, and just doing the things that the Bible's telling you. That's like you can't find any of that. No, I agree, man. It's really special to have like a relationship with God for yourself, and that's one thing I learned a part of that from Jeremy, man, when we just did like this little tour from Indiana and Texas. And, I wasn't sure because I just had only heard him on the radio, and I didn't really know much about him. So you're kind of nervous to go on the road with somebody like that. You're like, they could be crazy, And so, but what I found was like when we weren't on stage, he was a person always in his word. Like we're sitting in the hotel room and looking across at him. He's just like going at it in his word, like, night and day. And as musicians, we weren't like, I ain't gonna lie, back in the day, we weren't reading our Bibles as much as like that, So I was like, when I saw that, I was like, dude, like I start like getting in my word, and it like rubbed off on me. And I was like, it just made me burn more, and like, okay, this is what it's about, this. And then like the stage is the overflow. But your life outside of it is what matters. And I don't know how correct that's going to be, but for me, I feel like there was almost like, oh man, Lord help me, but it's almost like there's almost like a grace for that then, for where the church was, where the world was. I feel like for the days we have ahead of us as like church, as world, as community culture, like that double life, sort of like you're one person on stage, and as soon as you walk out, you're a different person. Like I don't think, and I say that towards my friends that are, doing music ministry, and it's like, there's no survival. The survival rate for that species is going to be, I don't think it will be zero. It's like where we're headed, as apocalyptical as that sounds, or it's the double life, not walking in light, not having a relationship with the Lord that's yours. Any of that, you're not. The newer people, they're walking in, like they're already walking in aware. The newer generation, they're already walking aware that, I'm not going to survive this journey. Because it's almost like how the Lord is shifting and moving things. you have to have the full burrito now. If you just show up with the tortilla and rice and beans, you're probably going to starve.
Yeah. I think it's the spiritual climate too. You know, I won't keep it too long, but I really think it's the times we're living in. There was a different grace for that then, and it was kind of common where you saw musicians living double lives, and not all, but you know, there's some out there. And so, but I think the grace is different now. I think you have to really take it serious. I've always kind of looked at it as a Levitical call, like we're Levites, and you have a higher mandate to live, like your life needs to be worship. You know, which is why when I first met Jeremy, I felt connected to that. And we had this first like kind of 2-hour moment at Bethel. That's how we, you know, he ended up asking me to connect with him, and because God showed up for like 2 hours, whatever. And it was like this whole thing about being sensitive to the Spirit. But in order to hear God, it starts with your life outside of the stage, I believe. And that's why I asked the question of like, hey, is that important for you, like for musicians to like really live this life of worship? Because worship is not, we show up Sunday morning, we sing this cool song and lift the roof with high praises, but it's, I don't know. I really worship is how you live your life, and I always talk about Brother Lawrence and abiding in the presence, the practice of the presence. So
100%. And you know, I always say that it's not even a phrase, but it's like, if you show up to church to worship, it's like you have to show up to church worshiping already. You know? And it's like the basic of like that life that you're living, you know. If you I actually was just thinking about that the other day, because during our trip, because it's like you're inviting your guest to come, a really special guest to come for dinner at your house. And you get there, and then it's basically like you invite Jesus to come to your house to have dinner. But then you're like, okay, hey, Jesus, just 1 second. Let me go just sit in the living room. I'm going to change my clothes. I'm going to go buy the groceries. I'm going to go light the fire. You know, I love grilling. So it's like light the fire. It's like kind of awkward. It's like takes 3-4 hours for you to really get the momentum to really engage on an intimate place with that person. But now, if that's the person for me that comes to church to start worshiping, man, it's like but now the person that comes to church worshiping, they already steward their life. So once Jesus arrives at the house, that nice garlic simmering smell is going on, the fire is already going, the steak is already seasoned. It's like it's 2-3 minutes for things, and then you get table time, you know, with Christ. And that's for me, for every person, it's like, guys, prep your do your meal prep ahead of time. So then when you get to these moments, you get to just enjoy and savor a meal together. That's right. More than just being like out of Jesus in the living room and you're in the kitchen. There's no that interaction. I don't know if the analogy for me is just so clear.
That's cool, man. I like that analogy. Doing it out of the overflow. Yeah, I love it, man. Well, I don't want to keep you too long. I appreciate you coming on.
Bro, and thank you.
Well, if it's okay with you, I'll have you back on and unpack some more other cool stuff about worship. I think we can do some series, man. You have a lot more, but I want to be respectful of your time today.
Thank you. It's just an honor for me to be here and, seeing your journey of meeting you at Bethel and then where you're at right now. It's just so great. I'm honored to be here. Fun. Come on, baby. Lots to talk about.
I know, dude. We'll unpack more because I think we just need to do a couple series because there's a lot I think you carry that is really important for this hour in church. And the new worshipers that are coming up, I just really think you have a lot to, share. So,
I love it. Thanks, bro. I appreciate it. Yes.
Dude. Blessing, dude.
Yes.
Yeah.